Hey guys, what's up? It is week 91, I believe. I have a bunch of reviews for you. I want to mention about 86. They took the copyright down. I think that they thought I was like trying to get like monetized from the trailer or something, but they realized I wasn't, I think, and they took it down, so we're good. So cool on screen media or whatever it was, what company I believe it was, but thanks. Also, I want to talk about there's some dual reviews with me and Jeremy in here, and I tried and I did it in the living room, and instead of going against the fireplace where me and Dustin did the Ghoulies franchise, I went against the TV to put it on the background, and it was lit kind of poorly. It was kind of more complicated. The room was larger. It was kind of hard to light, so I just want to apologize. Next time it'll be better, probably against the fireplace, because it looks like crap to me. But hopefully that won't take away from the enjoyment of the reviews. But the first review I want to cover is going to be from Severn Films. It's from 1993, and it is a serial killer movie starring Ted Raimi, Skinner. This just got released. Yeah. I had actually never seen this one. I wanted to see it for years because the VHS was released, I think, on like two copies, a rated and unrated. The DVD was a rated version, so I never bothered tracking it down. But I was always fascinated by serial killer movies, and the idea that it starred Ted Raimi kind of interested me big time. This movie is a weird one, to be honest. Like, it's made straight in the heart of the 90s, 93. It feels very 90s. We follow Dennis Skinner, who is the serial killer who likes to skin women and wear their skin. He mainly focuses on prostitutes. He kind of is a drifter as well, so he's traveling through a small town. He decides to stop at this house, and that has an ad out for a room for rent, and it's by Ricky Lake, and her husband, who's a truck driver, he's never around. They're having obviously marital problems. So Dennis Skinner moves into this house, and he starts kind of a relationship a little bit with Ricky Lake, and you're not sure where it's going to go. But he's up to his old tricks as well. He finds a job being like a maintenance kind of guy, a cleaner, but he also starts to skin prostitutes, of course. And this is one of the weirdest things ever. It's kind of shot in only a few locations: the house, his working quarters, and on his way to work. Which is basically some sort of water, viaduct deal. And he has this weird water motif where he's obsessed with water and how it refracts and whatnot, and how it drips, and what he's just obsessed with water. It's kind of a weird character quirk, but he's a serial killer, so he has plenty of those. And also, there's another little thing going on here with Tracy Lord's character, who is a former prostitute who was a victim of Skinner, so she's all scarred up, and she's staying in this seedy motel, like tracing all of Skinner's moves so she could eventually make her do her jump on him. And it's funny because we have Skinner doing all these skinnings and wearing the skin, which is such totally a Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing. And we have Tracy Lord's living in this seedy motel with the clerk, the guy who runs it, peeping in on her. So it's like a Psycho thing. So it's like an Ed Gein inspired serial killer movie. The tone's kind of strange. It's weird. Like, Ted Raimi's perfectly capable of playing like this comedic but serious and creepy guy. He does it fine, but the tone of the movie's just all over the place. Like, at one point there's this character introduced named Eddie, I believe, and he's introduced. He's shown as kind of like this African American former like a failed boxer, and he works in a place where Skinner works, and he has a negative interaction with Ted Raimi. And then it just hard cuts, kind of a spoiler here, to Ted Raimi wearing his skin, walking down the street saying like stereotypical like African American things. It's ridiculous. It's like, why would you even bring that character in just to kill him in seconds and give him no real character development, and then have him be a bunch of like end of a bunch of weird fucking outdated jokes, racial jokes that are tasteless. It's not really offensive. It's just nonsensical and just doesn't. It kind of deters from like the movie. It's just like, why? What? This is just too stupid. The director is actually a guy named Ivan Nagy, I believe is how you say his name, and he was a photographer before, so a lot of the colors look good. It has especially like the kill room, I guess we'll call it. All these killers have kill rooms, but it's lit well. It's creepy, and the set design's pretty good. It takes place in this weird industrial ghetto with like graffiti all over, and prostitutes just come out of any room like, hey, and it's just like this. They're making this really easy for Skinner, right? Broad daylight, but Set design's nice. Ted Raimi's fine. The acting's all around pretty decent in here, although it's a very uneven script. It was written by an English gentleman, and he mentions that he didn't put in the scene with Eddie. It wasn't his idea, that was added in, and it's just strange. And this movie probably got, some backlash and maybe pushed into obscurity a little bit, or maybe it actually helped the movie even be known. The director was dating Heidi Fleiss, and there was this big prostitute ring where he was supposed to be a pimp and all this other stuff. The DVD has the DVD and Blu-ray. I think there's a DVD out too, but the Blu-ray has a bunch of special features, including an interview with Ted Raimi, which is cool. Interview with the director who's since passed, and that's fun because he talks about a little bit about it, and he's like, I didn't do it. Talks about his career, but you kind of get from a lot of the other stuff that he probably did do it. There's an interview with the editor on here, and it's a pretty funny story about tracking down the elements and meeting with the director and realizing he was actually really nice and kind of friendly, but also kind of creepy at the same time. And that's a really funny supplement. And then we have on here an interview with the writer who talks about writing a script and not being able to get it made by Hammer and UK and stuff. So it's actually really well supplemented on the disc, and it looks really good. It sounds good. I enjoyed it. It's not a perfect movie. It has its problems, but it's definitely interesting to check out. It's Skinner from 1993, Ted Raimi serial killer flick.
You know what they're gonna do to me? They're gonna let me go. They love people like me. Doesn't that make you want to scream? Mind if I call you Carrie?
You can call me anything you want.
What did you do to actually get out of the TV world?
I just hired flights.
There is, I believe, a veneer of humanity, and it's about this thick.
And I sat down opposite the desk with the guy that's running at the time. He's dead now. Again, a lot of people that I used to speak to about Skinner seem to be dead. It has nothing to do with me.
And he just wanted to say, just so you remember, I know that you know who I am, and I know that all this stuff has happened, but when I made this movie, I was just a filmmaker.
Who's smiling now?
Okay, guys, the next one is also from Severn Films, and this is Mondo Bizarro and Mondo Freudo. Obviously, a take on Freud. These flicks right here. These are American Mondo movies, and what the Italians have taught us through their low-budget zombie films and their low-budget horror films is that nobody does shellac as artistic as the Italians, and it definitely shows in these movies. These Mondo movies were obviously inspired by Mondo Cane, which came out in the early 60s. It had a beautiful score by Riz Ortolani, and these are definitely missing that score, and it definitely shows. But these are made by kind of B-movie shellac-meisters that, kind of broke down the walls for independent cinema and distribution back in the day. This is who these are made by. They're complete and utter bullcrap. If you guys know Mondo movies, what they are is fake kind of documentaries where they go and get a bunch of footage and kind of disguise it as something else and then put narration on there and lie to the audience to show people something that may be interesting. But in these, they're basically just a way to get around to show a bunch of nudity and topless women in exotic locations, even though they're all shot in California, and it's pretty obvious. It is funny in its shamelessness. In Mondo Bizarro, at first you're like, oh, okay. And the very opening of this movie, they say, this was shot with a special lens which can capture from up to a mile, and you're like, bullshit. Back in the day, you used to just be able to tell people stuff like that, and they really couldn't check up on the information. And you're just like, come on. There's this African tribe, supposedly, and they have this chicken that they're going to sacrifice, and they show it, and they say, this chicken, if this was 100 years ago or 200 years ago, it would be a white baby. And you're just like, you guys are so tasteless and shameless, it almost brings a smile to my face, but the embarrassment hides it. Like, if that makes any sense. And this is what these are. These are products of their time, and they're interesting to watch for that reason, to see how film came along and see how exploitation was there and see what kind of movies were being made and how, different it is in a certain way. And how they can manipulate the footage and add narration and just make things with a bare minimum. And that's exactly what they're doing here. It's not a good film. It's there to make money. And that's not something I can truly appreciate, but I can understand the interest in it, if that makes sense. Mondo Freudo, supposedly, I think it's a little bit better. It goes by quicker. And it tries to tie in things that are like deviant sexual behavior. And both the movies are funny because they're very similar and they bleed together. To be honest, there's commentaries on both, and there's a scene in Mondo Bizarro where there's this photographer, and the narration acts like it's him talking. He's like, "I do these things," and it's just like a sleazy art photographer taking pictures of a dancing naked woman while dancing, and it's just like. And it's like, I do these things because it's supposedly art. And then the next, Mondo Freudo has this artist who's painting on naked women and putting canvases against it. And the whole movie, they're talking about how people can get away with certain strip teases and certain amounts of nudity in certain areas in the 60s. And it basically is a big comparison to what they can get away with in this movie too. Like, well, if we say it's a documentary and it's educational, we can do these things. That's just what I imagine they're doing. There is a supplement on here, or a special feature with interview with kind of an expert on these things, and he talks about all four of the movies. Severin also released Echo and The Forbidden as well, which I didn't get a chance to watch yet. But he talks about all the movies, and it's interesting, and he understands what's going on, and it's very funny. And at the very end, he mentions that the disdain that Mondo Bizarro had for its audience. They say something about to the worm, the cheese is the universe, and to the corpse, the maggot is to the maggot, the corpse is the universe. What is your universe? It just has this weird, gross idea in opening, and it's jumping around the globe. They're not particularly good films, and no, anybody would tell you that, but they do interest a certain audience, and something like that. Something like a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie, you want to see where some of your favorite things may have come from, or where the American film industry and B movies went. I noticed in the Mondo Bizarro, or is it Mondo Freudo? I can't think. It's Mondo Bizarro. It's one of the two. But in the opening, with the beach and the very ending, I swear I spotted David Hess on the beach. I posted a picture on my Facebook and asked, can anyone confirm if this David Hess is 1965, 66? I know he was in probably New York at the time, but maybe he made visits to California writing music, but it looks identical to him. His smile, his build, his hair, his nose. It's just like, that's got to be David Hess. Somebody help me confirm this, please. I'll put the still up right here, and you guys let me know. That looks just like him, right? But they're, I think, both in full screen, and there's plenty of nudity in these movies, and you can tell what they were made for. But yeah, Sever did a good job on them. It's just not, these movies are not for me.
Kane came out and was a very big hit, and it spawned in the United States this whole wave of Mondo films.
And as you can see, most of the women performing in this have a certain Freudian undertone to them.
Can only give it love until the sun goes down.
Remember, he was very fat, so seeing somebody else screwing a girl was very frustrating for him.
We talked to the artist and asked him just how he got into this unusual type of artwork.
Okay, guys, the next one is from On Earth Films. This is from 2017. It just got released. It is Purgatory Road, sorry about that. And this is by the director Mark Savage. Mark Savage actually is an Australian guy, and he did, Sensitive New Age Killers and a couple other ones that I have, but I never had a chance to watch. After watching Purgatory Road, I will tell you I will be checking those out sometime. Purgatory Road is a low-budget, kind of southern gothic horror film, I'll say. I guess it follows that kind of vein, about two brothers who suffered from some sort of tragedy at a young age, and they're kind of warped from it. One especially, more so than the other. And they are religious. One is a priest, and they're traveling priests, and they give people, the confession from and this trailer that's made altered to be like that. And that plot right there is great. It's awesome. This movie definitely has some things to say about religion and whatnot. So we have this power struggle between the brothers. One of them is bossy, the priest. He's bossy, he's angry, he's violent, and he is in fact killing people. And we have the younger brother who is just pushed around and shoved around and seems like he has a good nature in him but can never really escape it and stand up to his brother. So this whole movie we have this brother pushing down on the other brother, and we're just waiting for it to explode or something to happen. There's also this serial killer, kind of Black Widow killer. I don't want to call her Black because she's not marrying him, but she's killing for money, and she's just completely insane and crazy. And she kind of has this head-on collision with these brothers and starts to get involved with them, and she likes killing, I'll say that. And there's a great little thing in here with a radio talk show where she calls in all the time, and it's very reminiscent of Martin by George Romero, which I like seeing, and it adds a nice little layer to the movie. But saying that, this movie, like I said, is shot in like this southern location. It has these people coming to this trailer, and due to what happened to them in the childhood, the priest cannot stand stealing. That is his number one sin that he cannot stand. And if the person says they stole, he takes vengeance on them and saves their souls. There's something else going on in this movie where they keep showing that there's something in the cellar to this house that they have, this childhood house that they have. And I don't want to spoil too much, but what it happens to be is pretty twisted and pretty demented and so crazy, but it fits the movie and it works really well. The performances in here are really good. I really enjoyed the younger brother who's being like tormented. I thought that his character arc was great. I thought he did a good job with it, and he became a character I really liked in a very long time. And I will tell you, the end of this movie is very cathartic in a crazy kind of revenge way, and it is so what's the word I'm looking for? It's fulfilling. You feel so. I had the word at the tip of my tongue, but I lost it. I feel so fulfilled after watching this movie. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted to see. And that doesn't always happen, and that's kind of a downer, but I really thought this was a great low-budget movie. I thought it looked really good. The music was great, too. I remember really digging the music while I was watching this and thinking, yeah, that's cool. Some of the lighting stuff is great. The colors, and especially in the trailer, they've got some nice colors going on. And the performance of the girl, I can't think of her character name, the crazy one, it is tremendous, and the way she manipulates people. There's tons of manipulation going on in here, and the younger brother is always at the end of it and getting screwed by it. But it's an emotional movie that packs a punch, that has a good character study, that is just all around great, and has some crazy moments that go that extra step and become extreme to make sure it earns its place on the unearthed label. But highly recommended. Really dug this one. I was very pleasantly surprised with it, because you never know. New movies, I'm not always the biggest fan of. You guys know I can be probably overly critical on newer films, but this was good stuff, and especially for an independent movie, highly recommended. If you like this kind of stuff, I would check it out. If this was made in the 70s, I bet people would still be going gaga over it. That means anything. There's an interview with some of the actors on here, which I enjoyed seeing, how they talk about getting the role and working on the movie and stuff like that. And there's also special effects kind of look at it, and Marcus Cook did some of the special effects on here, so I think he did all of them. But yeah, awesome special effects. The gore's good, and they don't stay on the gore for 25 minutes. The director knows when to cut away, so it doesn't ever look fake. Like, there's a lot of movies where it's like the special effects are great in this, but they're lingering on them and they start to look bad. It doesn't do that. They know when to cut away. They know how to use their special effects well. But Purgatory Road, really good, really great, recommended.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned.
Repentance, 12 Hail Marys, 6 Our Fathers.
So what's going on in there?
My brother's a priest. He's in there hearing confessions right now.
I'm looking for some fellas that used to live here. You might have known the second fellow as Father Vincent.
And these heathens, these godless vultures take from us. Now they must pay for their sins with their blood and the blood of their children.
She was an addict and a thief.
Well, she's my baby girl.
I knew you boys needed an assistant.
I have my own church now, my own rules.
part of your crusade?
Nobody's good child. Good is something we try on like a coat that never fits.
Okay, the next one, you know, you guys believe it or not, I've never seen it. So a lot of people are going to be like, I can't believe you've never seen this movie. Takashi Miike movie. It is Audition from 1999. Yes, I've never seen Audition. This is the Arrow release. Yeah, I know, I've heard about it for years, and at that point, it was that Japanese craze was coming over the United States. Everybody's like, you got to see all these movies, and I just didn't have time for a lot of Japanese films. And then I watched a Miike movie, and it was Ichi the Killer, and I thought it was okay. I wasn't blown away by it, so I kind of avoided his movies for a long time. And I recently started seeing a bunch more, and I bought a lot, and I've liked almost all of them, to be honest. So I was definitely wrong on that. So yeah. This one right here, Audition. It's obviously a classic. It has an extreme element to it that people always go for, but it's really kind of a mystery movie, and it's a drama, and the payoff's great, but a lot of people say it's boring, it doesn't work, blah, 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 and the only good is the last 20 minutes. But for me, extreme stuff or violence or gore or people getting killed is nothing, it's not great unless I have some sort of attachment to the characters, or it makes it that much more impactful. Like at the end of something like True Romance, all those characters finally meet up in the room, and you're just like, oh my, this is going to be awesome, because I have invested all on these characters, and I know who they are, and now I'm going to watch them, kill each other. So every time somebody gets shot, you're like, wow. And on Audition, by the time, I don't know why that's a weird comparison, but I compared them to. But I was very vested in all the characters. We have this older man, mid-40s, his mother, his wife died, and his kid tells him, you should remarry because you look tired, so he decides to actually do it. He works at kind of a TV studio, so he becomes part of this experiment where he's going to run an online dating show, like, what do they call that? Those shows where a bachelor, stuff like that, and he goes through like 40 women, and he's reading all the files, and he's supposed to meet up and pick the woman, and he picks this girl who's very mysterious, and there's not much on her, and he kind of just falls smitten with her, even though his colleague is like, don't go with her, we don't know anything about her, and the deeper he digs, the more mysterious she seems, and maybe a little bit something foul is going on with her, but he's so enamored, and it keeps going further and further and further. So that's basically the plot of Audition, and it's interesting to watch him kind of discover and keep going down and down, but still not caring and still being madly in love. Even at the very end of this movie, he obviously has some affection for her, and it doesn't really seem to matter. The psychology of this character in here, the female, I can't think of her name, she's great. She's a good actress. She's very creepy. She was a model, I believe, beforehand. So her performance is very good. In fact, all the performances in here are top notch. No complaints on the acting. And some of the stuff is very grueling. I felt myself cringing at the end. And there is a torture scene at the end of this film that everybody probably knows or has seen. Piano, the wires. I don't want to spoil it. Not piano wires, but they're barbed kind of wire things. Very gross. Very disgusting. And since I was so invested with the characters, it was pretty impactful, to be honest. There's some weird surreal moments that happen in here, but for the first half of the first three-fourths of this movie, it's like a mystery and drama. Like we start to realize this character's psychology on both the characters, really, but more so on the second half, the very end of the movie. You only realize the female character's psychology through the action that she supposedly did when you're learning about the movie, through like kind of detective, like he's kind of discovering all these things. And through even his dreams, you learn some psychology about her. So it comes somewhat of a muddled storyline. I really enjoyed it. The commentary on here by Tom Metz, I believe his name is, or Tom Mess, he was talking about the novel compared to the movie, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And he started talking about how people could be kind of siding with either character based on your sex. And I was like, I side with the male more so because of something that she does and that has nothing to do with him. She goes out of her way to hurt something that she shouldn't have to. So you're like, why would I side with her after she does that cruelty to something? But although she just wants somebody to suffer because of something else. And, the whole setup of getting this girl is really skeezy. If you think about, the whole setting up, throw away 40 people and then just pick one. It's just like very disgusting, and it's kind of a statement on the reality TV show deal and how people are treated in that kind of aspect. But besides that, I would really recommend checking this movie out. There's nothing wrong with it. I didn't mean that as a negative besides that, but you guys understand that that's an interesting kind of aspect to say. It depends on your sex who you will side with psychologically, and it's just I enjoyed it. I actually felt bad for the lead in this. Good stuff. I felt kind of bad for everybody involved in a way, but some flashbacks on her history, and that's interesting. So as well, but good stuff, good movie, good release. Has a lot of interviews and stuff like that with Takashi Miike commentary, and it's a good movie. I'm kind of ashamed I waited this long to watch it, but now it's another one I can check off seeing, and I saw it in a great release. Pretty cool movie, and I'm going to be honest. It was really, really hyped when it first came out, and then it got some backlash. People were like, it's not that good, it's boring. So I was like, is this going to be boring? I don't know, but I was really invested. I wasn't bored throughout the entire movie at all, because it's not just about the gore, guys, and I know most people feel that way, but it's interesting. It's good stuff.
Mondo, man.
じゃあ私は美味しいものを食べて青山さんとおしゃべりしてればいいんですか？
そう。
あれかな、アメリカだとこのコメンタリー聞いてあれしてくれるのってイーライ・ロスぐらいしかいないんじゃないのかな。タランティーノと2人で見てんのかな。
She's about to show Aoyama her body and, more importantly, her scars. But what she does is she actually lies about the origin of those scars.
まあ10年前に作った作品でまた新たに、パッケージを新しくして、皆さんに見ていただけるということで非常に、嬉しく思ってます。
And in the early 90s, he became very quickly established as a very successful and incredibly prolific director of direct-to-video features.
Hey guys, what's up? We're here to review the I think it's 72 or 3. It might be even as early as 71. Spanish horror film starring legends Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and Telly Savalas called Horror Express. This is the second time I've seen this one. I remember we both, I think, saw it when the Severin Blu-ray was released about 5-6 years ago. But Arrow remastered it, did a great job. So we're going to talk about this mismatch combination weird horror movie that it really doesn't fit in one subgenre. It's mystery, it's horror, it's fantasy, it's adventure, it turns into a zombie film, it's an alien film, it's a monster flick, it's everything in one. It's also a train murder mystery, which is also great. The story follows an anthropologist in the early 18th century. What is it? Late 18th, early 19th century, something like that?
It's I'd say between 1890 and 1910.
Okay, yeah. So he finds this missing link frozen in the ice, and he brings it on the train. His I don't want to say associate because they're kind of a little bit, maybe a competitor. Peter Cushing wants to know what's in the crate, and by doing that, he unleashes this missing link on the train. But the thing seems to have a bunch of unique powers, and later we find out it's not really a missing link. It's a missing link that's body has been taken over by an alien from space. The plot's completely ridiculous, but also very entertaining, vastly science fiction inspired. And the story basically is inspired by Who Goes There on a Train, which would later be made into The Thing from Another World and The Thing, and then a prequel of The Thing. So, initial thoughts about this movie?
I actually of all the Thing related stories, it's probably my favorite.
I love The Thing. You can't beat The Thing, but I adore this movie. I think it's vastly underrated. I think it's very entertaining. I love the score that starts off kind of like that whistle western and goes into this sort of mystery style thing. It's a very memorable score, and the score is actually in the movie, like you pointed out too earlier. But yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the score is a tangible thing within the universe of this movie, like it exists in the movie. I like seeing both Cushing and Lee as like more partners or friends, as opposed to being like bitter or mortal enemies like they are in most of their other films, specifically one series.
You know what they pointed out in the commentary by Kim Newman, and I can't think of the other guy's name. It's a very hilarious commentary. They have a good time with it, and they seem to have some real affection for this movie, and they're back and forth. And it's like listening to two friends talk about a movie they love together, which I love. They point out, and also in some of the special features they do as well, that Cushing had just lost his wife before the movie, and he didn't want to do it. And Lee took him aside and basically was like, no, I don't want to say bullied, but kind of like
coerced.
Not coerced. I want to say tough loved him into making this movie, and they say kind of usually Lee I don't think shines as much as Cushing in the movies that they're in, but I think Lee is actually better than Cushing in this one, and it's usually the other way around for me. I usually prefer Cushing, but I love Lee in this movie, and he kind of took him under, and kind of like demanded all the screen presence, I think. Even though Cushing's good, he just doesn't stand out as much as Lee.
Right.
And speaking of demanding screen presence, and about an hour into this movie, Telly Savalas makes an appearance as like this Russian soldier. Are they Russians, I think?
I think they're Russian. This is before the fall of the Tsar. They're going from Manchuria, pretty much from the east to the west, like to UK or wherever they're going. 'Cause that one guy's Scottish, isn't he?
There's this is a very international cast.
It's a very
international group
yeah.
of characters, which is really fun to see, especially on the train, which you don't see that much. There's Asian characters, there's Russians, there's English, there's all sorts of things. There's countesses and like dukes and stuff like that on this train. And that makes for a really fun international exchange between all these characters and sets up, again, like a murder train mystery story.
Right.
But instead, it's a science fiction, alien taking over who's who kind of story.
Yeah, and when Telly Savalas comes, it's pretty much at like a border crossing. And this is just at like, I think like the kindlings of a Russian revolution.
Well,
so,
yeah, because we have the Rasputin-style character in there, which is definitely pointing at, that was before World War I when Rasputin was killed, or after World War I'm trying to think when Rasputin was actually killed.
Well, I don't know when World War I was.
Well, it was ever when the change in Russia became the Soviet Union kind of deal, right?
Because I think the revolution is in 1912 or 1914.
That's after like World War I.
Is that after?
I can't think exactly,
I don't know.
But it's before World War II.
It's been 20 years since I've been in high school.
Turns into the Soviet Union. But regardless, they definitely are making a statement about the Russian Rasputin deal, and that's really great too. And it involves the alien creature with the religious aspect. And this is a big science over religion movie. They kind of like laugh at religion a lot in this movie and make fun of the religious characters more so than they would. Well, science is like evolution in this movie and whatnot.
Despite the crazy pseudo-Victorian science that's present. Despite, like they have, like, that whole, like, eye thing in the movie, and I guess that was a big thing in Victorian times, but this movie's made in the 70s, so it's like, well, let's just take this scientific theory from Victorian...
Well, the theory with being able to see the images in the eyes is nonsense, but it only pertains to the monster itself, not everything.
Oh, right, but that was a dominant theory, like, so to speak, in Victoria, like, in our world.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
science, and they
that's how I justify in the movie, that it's only the monster, not
it's only the monster,
But the funny thing about the movie is, like, the alien absolutely absorbs people's intelligence, similar to the Starship Troopers brain bug, which I love too, because it starts to learn, and it starts to absorb people that can get it back home. It's just such a fun adventure flick, and it keeps going steps and steps further and becoming more crazy. And I love that they pointed out how Telly Savalas, like Lee and Cushing were these like by-the-book kind of guys, and when Telly Savalas is kind of like to come in and explore and find his character and do these wild things, and you can tell, and watching the short interaction they have together is great. I love Telly Savalas. He's usually the best part of any movie he's in. He just is, especially when he plays a creep, and he just is in this movie, he's like eccentric and weird and just power hungry and scary, and he's great in this one. In fact, all the cast is amazing in this movie. Like I said, the guy who plays Rasputin's in a bunch of Spanish horror movies as well, and Giallo's, I've seen him pop up in. I can't think of his name.
Is it the assistant to Cushing, the female? I really liked her.
She was also a good character.
Yeah, and I don't know who she is or what she's from. I've never seen her in anything else, but just the way that she acts alongside like these like powerhouses, it's like she holds her own, and she's fun. She's a lot of fun.
It's an ensemble cast in here.
Yeah.
But there's like 3 that demand screen presence.
Absolutely.
It's a vastly entertaining movie. I really like it. I think the score's great. I think that the adventure's great. There's not much wrong with it, except I could never figure out when the alien first takes over somebody's body and he comes from the missing link's body. He ends up, the guy starts to get the hairy hand. And I never understood that, why he's jumping in other bodies, it doesn't happen. I'm just not 100% sure. But it's a very strange kind of idea. But I love that the alien creature says to the religious guy, he says, "You're of no use to me. I wouldn't want what's in your brain."
Right.
Like basically insulting again religion, and he's sucking all the scientists' brains and whatnot.
Mhm.
But entertaining movie nonetheless. One of my favorites, I think. It looks way better, I think, than the Severin Blu-ray. Maybe they found new elements. I'm not sure way better. I thought it was an improvement myself.
I'm not one to. Because I've only seen the Severin. I kind of just caught up glimpses of this one because.
Well, you listened to it with the commentary.
Yeah, I was watching with the commentary. It did look fantastic. I just can't remember how the Severin one looked.
The Severin one looked good. I remember it looking good because this movie was on public domain DVDs for years.
Oh,
actually,
really?
yeah, and they looked horrible. Maybe they weren't even public domain. Maybe they were illegal bootlegs, but they were everywhere. And I had one on a diamond DVD, and I didn't even bother watching because I knew it was going to look like crap. So this movie never particularly looked great until Severin had it, and then Era took it over after that. The features are great. Like I said, the commentary is very funny and very informative. And they had an interview with the composer on here, which I love because he talks about his relationship with Telly Savalas and how he got into films. And you shed some light on Telly Savalas, and it just seems like a really cool guy, kind of larger than life character. There's also some other features on here. I can't remember exactly everything, but I just remember everything was pretty solid on the disc, and I watched everyone interview with the director, and it was also great. And he talks about this movie, and this movie got well received by British critics, but it never really went anywhere because the marketing was so poor, and that's unfortunate because I think this one should be a cult hit, to be honest. And it has it now, but it's just not as appreciated, I think, as it should be, to be honest.
Yeah, everybody should give this a watch. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially The Thing or science fiction in general.
If you like science fiction or horror or anything in that kind of vein, you'll love this one. And I tried out some different angles here. I know the lighting's not as best, and it's not as good as it usually is, I don't think. But hopefully, I'll get a little better in this room. It's harder to light a bigger room than usual.
And you guys, there's this giant window behind me in the day. It just, it's like E.T. out here.
So regardless, highly recommended release of a really great movie with a star-studded cast, and got to see it.
Go get it. It's like $5. I don't know.
No, it's
not. I don't know. I never buy anything.
For 2 million years in these subterranean caves, a creature of superhuman evil was entombed in a wall of ice, waiting to be free, waiting to live again. Travel with us on a journey into a world where nightmare becomes reality.
Are you telling me that an ape that lived 2 million years ago got onto that crate, killed the baggage man and put him in there?
Yes, I am. It's alive. It must be.
Travel with us, if you dare, on the Horror Express. But you can't escape. No one can stop the fury and the terror of the Horror Express.
Okay, guys, we're here to cover the 2018 remake of Suspiria. Yeah, honestly, this is like Suspiria, big shoes to fill. It's a Dario Argento classic, one of the most appreciated Italian horror films ever made, and I think that the more time goes by, the more appreciated it is. And like the Exploding Heads guys say, if you're gonna remake it, remake it. Don't make the same movie over. Don't try to tread lightly over the same things and make it more accessible to other people. And that's exactly what this director did. This is nearly a 2.5 hour. It's over 2.5 hours long.
Right.
I don't want to use the term epic because just because it's long doesn't necessarily make it epic. But
no,
this movie, they did some things differently than the original Suspiria. Instead of trying to recreate that amazing lighting and those elaborate death scenes that no one else could do, they don't, which is smart because you're not gonna beat Michael Jordan in a basketball game, so don't try.
Right.
Try to do something else. Try to be different, and that's exactly what they did here.
I think where the original Suspiria shines is really in its color, its camera work. The original story, like the story to the original Suspiria, I never really got into. Like I knew what was going on, but the story seemed to be like an afterthought. While I think in this remake, they present the story.
Well, Suspiria's nightmare logic, nightmare fuel, and the more you see it, you understand the story, but the story's not front and center.
Right.
The remake, the story is all front and center.
It is, and yeah.
And it's less about the girls in the school. It's not really about, what is her name? What was Jessica Harper's name? I can't believe I forgot of it. Banyan, Susie Banyan. Susie Banyan's character in it more is about even like the politics in the witch school. Mm-hmm. And we come into this school led by kind of Tilda Swinton's the face of the school, mother. They don't call them mothers. They call them. I always want to say mother because of three mothers, but Madam or Miss Blanc.
Yes. Yeah.
So she kind of is the face of this school, and it seems to be there's some turmoil with another teacher, Marcos, and nobody knows who really wants to rule this school. But you don't see Marcos. Marcos is kind of kept in the shadows, similar to the original. Suspiria, I don't really see Marcos until the very end. And I was thinking that maybe we'd get the three mothers and they'd go into all three of the mothers, but it literally focuses on one mother.
Just one, yeah.
But it's really two stories in one, and it has this continuation of this old man who seems to be, him and his wife were victims of when Russia invaded Germany, and the Russian citizens were kind of brutalized because they were associated with Nazis at the time, so everybody was so angry, so they were brutalized. And he's kind of just a old lonely psychologist that gets involved with digging into this school because someone that used to visit him disappeared and was a part of this school.
Right. Yeah. She like the movie opens with the girl visiting. You don't know she's at the school, but she's just rambling about her paranoias, being stalked, and he's just writing off as she's schizophrenic, she's whatever.
But he starts to dig in and he starts to realize, that kind of reminds me of Rosemary's Baby, because there's I don't want to say like a friend in that movie that kind of starts to dig into the story and gets involved with it as well. It's kind of like a little bit like that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've had like a big resurgence of like art horror movies. Like we'll have Hereditary or The Witch or It Follows, and these come out every year, and they're like kind of thrown under that umbrella of art, like horror. And Suspiria really is like art horror, but it also goes to a step further later on. It's divided into 6 acts and a epilogue at the end, right? Epilogue, not epilogue. Yeah, it's an epilogue. Yeah, it even calls it that, I think. Mm-hmm. So it's divided into these acts, and at first, I was liking it, and as it went on, I was like, this is a bit slow. Act 5, I was like, okay. And then when it hit Act 6, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And then at the very ending, with all that stuff, I actually had to hold back tears.
Yeah.
And who would think, not because it was some just pure cinema scene, like at the end of The Wild Bunch, it's emotionally driven, pure cinema like intensity, adrenaline. That one is emotional and just has that huge adrenaline. Sorry, I can't control the police. But has this huge adrenaline thing in it. But this one, it's like emotional to the core, and I don't want to spoil it, but I literally was like, gotta fight back tears. I'm a man.
It just does a really good job of wrapping something up, I'd say.
It's pretty amazing and surprising that it went there.
Right.
And there's some reveals and twists that I thought were great in here that I was like, oh wow, I'm surprised they did that, and I really like that. And you see these flashbacks throughout the entire movie, and then you're like, what is this all about? We get it. And then it's like, oh, it really means something, and you're like, it changes everything, which is a great way to kind of be impactful in a movie. not show you everything, but give you glimpses, so you don't feel cheated that they're leaving too much out. You were kind of given the puzzle pieces to some extent.
Right. I think initially with the flashbacks, I didn't know what those flashbacks were. Like, I thought, is this like going back to the war? Like, and then like more information gets revealed. It's like,
the lead character's backstory.
About the lead character's backstory. Because I was confused at first.
And you know what else was kind of interesting about the movie? The whole movie keeps talking about like a terrorist. It takes place in 1977, so it takes place when the original was made. So talking about the terrorist cells, and we got the Berlin Wall, and it's actually shown in the movie, which is pretty cool. But we have these this divide of a country, and we have the divide of the witches. They're divided and everything like that. And I just got to say one thing without saying too much, but Tilda Swinton in this movie is amazing.
Yeah.
A great performance. Amazing. And I don't want to say too much, but Marcos, you're not sure if you're going to see Marcos, but when they do, motherfucking Mojo from the X-Men.
She
disgusting.
Is everything I wanted to be in life. I'm just going to say that right now.
Repulsive. I actually was disgusted when I saw it. But you start to decide to see what's happening as the movie goes on and on. You're like, oh, that's what they're going to do. And then you start to get a Hereditary vibe again, which is like a pattern I'm catching with a lot of newer horror movies. I'm like Satan's Slave. I'm like, is this like Hereditary? And this one, I'm like, what is this, like a Hereditary? It just keeps popping up. But it's different. And it ends up being different.
It does, yeah.
I think I like it more than Hereditary.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to revisit this one, but it's just hard to find 2.5 hours time.
It's a very long movie. Like, I think we had to take like a couple of breaks, I think
you had a couple cigarette breaks. But it's perfect because it has the X. They know it's long.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, pause it now, go to the bathroom. You notice every time they show the act, like that border fills in more. Did you notice that?
I didn't, but that's definitely a sense of probably dread, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. There's just like that weird geometric, like, if you can look at the title, I don't know what the original title looked like, actually. Not that? Yeah, there's just these weird geometric things, and with each act, like the border gets a bit more involved. And I thought that was cool. I'm like, what is this trying to mean or say? I don't know.
Now, the kill scenes aren't as elaborate or anything like that, but there's a couple really grotesque ones. And one is so drawn out, I was like, I'm starting to feel bad here.
It's kind of it's like torture.
It's torture.
Yeah.
If people are like the torture porn in Hostel or something, somebody getting cut up, I'm like, this is grosser.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is worse.
Yeah.
But I thought the ending was pretty great. The Act 6 and the epilogue. Act 6 and the epilogue were both amazing.
I like it when I just like really strong shows of power. I don't want to give too much away, but I just like,
kind of like in the scene in Con Air when he. Well, I'm just kidding.
I want to destroy the world. That's all I ever want. I don't want to.
I'm not asking for much. I just want the world to be destroyed, and I want to be
doing it. Exactly. Yeah. No. I just whenever that happens in a movie, I'm like, I feel this. This speaks to me because it's just violent.
There's good cinematography. It's a very competent movie. I mean, it's not. It doesn't look as good as a Dario movie.
No, and I don't think it's trying to.
You couldn't.
No,
you can't.
Yeah, the colors are muted in this.
Yeah, very like right away. I was like, man, this looks bleak. I mean, it's the Berlin Wall is around. It is a depressing, bleak thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you follow this haunted old man for a big chunk of the movie who lost his wife. I guess that's not really a spoiler.
No,
we kind of understand
that
he's alone right from the beginning.
Right.
And it's just right there. It's desolate and bleak, but there is like a warmness to it. Like at times, certain characters, show sympathy,
like the relationship.
They show compassion.
Yeah, the relationship with Tilda Swinton and the main character, like that. It's touching. It really is.
I was talking more so with the old man at the end.
Oh yeah,
that's compassion in there. But also, would you want that? It's hard to decide, but there's compassion. And like I said, movies that are usually horrifically violent, that have no compassion in it, the violence doesn't work as well. When you have compassion with your violence, like The Revenant, which is very violent at times, but there's like a human side of a compassion in there, it makes the violence more profound to me. and that works better.
Yeah, violence and gore for the sake of violence and gore. I guess that has a place, but it gets old quick.
I mean, I like gore and special effects and stuff like that, but when you make it mean something in the movie, and then you have these moments of like compassion, it just makes it stand out more.
It does.
It's just when it's all just the same and there's it's just
you don't get bored. You know, it's oh, I'm feeling something here. Oh, this is real. You know, it's different. You know, it's like being served like a 5-course meal or just a piece of pizza. Like both are good. But I'd rather eat those different flavors and textures.
And then eat the pizza
And then eat pizza because it's a cheat day or something.
You don't have no cheat days.
Every day's a cheat day because I'm not.
You don't care.
I don't care.
I never even care either. Are we supposed to be talking about Suspiria though?
I thought we were talking about getting food. Go see Suspiria. It's really good.
It's really good. Go see it by renting it or buying it because it's no longer in theaters. I think this movie, I don't even think it played in theaters in Toledo.
Right.
Yeah, which is a medium-sized city. So.
Yeah. Or if you know somebody who has it, just like look outside their window when they're watching it, like, you know, peering through the curtain or something. I don't think they're going to care. They're going to be too captivated on the movie.
But wear a coat, it's cold.
Yeah, that's kind of cold.
No, but regardless, a highly recommended movie. I need to watch it again before all these movies like that, and that's probably a good thing. When I think when I walked out of The Witch, I was like, did I like that? I was like, it's different. I thought about it. I was like, I did like it. Hereditary 2, I had a discussion about it. Like I had to talk about it, and the same thing with It Follows. And I have arguments with people that don't like it. I liked all those movies, and more importantly, I wanted to talk about those movies. So as long as you get people talking and discussing and thinking about it, your movie will live on in some extent.
Yeah, and I will say I do want to see the other two mothers. I wish that this would continue.
Spoiling it. I'm just kidding. No.
How am I
but
no,
I would like to because
yeah.
Even in Dario's original, like he did the Three Mothers trilogy, but we got ripped off on Mother of Tears. I don't want to be a jerk. It's not the worst movie ever made, but we got Suspiria and Inferno, which are both awesome, and then we get Mother of Tears, and you're like, this is not.
Doesn't Mother of Tears? Doesn't it come out like 20 years later?
Yeah, way too late. It's because Inferno didn't do well.
Yeah.
It's because Fox didn't want to take, I think it's Fox, didn't want to take a chance at Suspiria. Like, we're not putting that on our label. We'll create some weird sub-label for it. And it did gangbusters. I think it did well, got a lot of respect. And then they're like, we'll put Inferno out on Fox. And then it fucking, I don't know why, but it flopped. And I'm not sure, I think it was 20th Century Fox. It flopped. So then they were like, no, we're not doing that anymore. So Dario was like, oh, fuck you. I'm going back to the Giallo. Those always did me well. That's what he did Tenebrae. So it's like, yeah, you gotta blame maybe not even the audience, not even, I don't know, the studio. It's just unfortunate circumstances why we didn't get that third Mother movie in its heyday.
Right.
So, but we got this, and this is good. So check it out.
Yeah. That's for that,
At the beginning, she gave me things. Perfect balance, perfect sleep. She wants to get inside of me. I can feel her. Oh, she can see me.
When you dance the dance of another, you make yourself in the image of its creator.
I feel like I'm not even here yet.
Madame Blank's incredible.
1, 2, 3.
The way she transmits her work.
You have to decide, what is it you want to be for this company?
There's more in that building than what you can see, Doctor.
You are living with dangerous people. Three mothers, pre-God, pre-devil. Mother Tenebrarum, Mother Lacrimarum, and Mother Suspiriorum. Darkness, tears, and sighs.
You're making some kind of deal with them. I don't know what you're talking about. It's all a mess.
Okay, guys, the next one is a Patreon pick from Jonathan Wilhelm, and this is Sorority House Massacre 2. Yes, I have the double feature here by the legendary Jim Wynorski. And, you know, I was maybe me and Dustin were a little harsh on Ghoulies 4, and it's nothing to do with Jim Wynorski. That's just a bad movie. I like Wynorski. I like his stuff. I like Return to Swamp Thing. I like Chopping Mall. Yeah. Sorority House Massacre 2, made in, I believe, 1990. This is a sequel, supposedly, to Sorority House Massacre 1, which I'm not a big fan of, so I always held off on watching this one. Yeah, but this movie is a blast. It's definitely a comedy. It's definitely silly. And it has flashbacks to one of the, I believe it's the first Slumber Party Massacre movie. It doesn't have flashbacks to Sorority House Massacre 1. It has flashbacks to Slumber Party Massacre 1, which is really weird and doesn't make that much sense, but okay. So, Sorority House Massacre 2 follows the story of 5 beautiful college girls that pick up, buy this like old, or rent this old rundown house that a bunch of murders took place in. That's what they do. They pick that house, and they're going to fix it up, and they're going to live there for basically the college semester. What ensues is this creepy guy across the street who eats raw meat, and I believe it's the heavyset guy who plays the elephant kind of dude in Guyver. But he eats raw meat, and he was a witness to the original murders, but he's always been kind of a creep, and people think he was involved somehow but can never prove it. He's hilarious in it. He's playing right the whole sleazy, sweaty, fat guy deal killer, and he plays it perfectly, and he's in on the joke, and he knows how to do it, and it's really funny. But there's a 5-minute segment in this movie where all 5 characters somehow strip down naked, and you see them all, a lot of TNA, and I was just like, wow, Jim Wynorski does not take much time to get into the nudity. I mean, it's not right away, but within there's 20 minutes, and there's a 5-minute segment where all 5 of them are naked already. And there's tons of TNA. All the girls are beautiful. All the girls are fun. They're being silly. Goofy, and it's complete nonsense. Like, Jim Wynorski he has no shame when it comes to somehow shoehorning in as much nudity as he can get. There's a line in here that says they go to run out of the house and it's pouring rain, and they say, should we get our clothes? Well, they're upstairs. We can't get our clothes. And it's just like, all right, I get what you're doing. You're not fooling me, man. But who's going to complain about a bunch of beautiful girls running around naked? Not most people. And they start to get picked off. The deaths aren't gratuitous or anything. Sometimes it's just blood splattered on a wall. I can't really think of many special effects. But we start to think, it can't be the guy across the street. That's just too obvious. He comes over anyways, and you don't really know what his his motives are. And there's some funny moments where there's mistaken identity and just absolutely ridiculous stuff happening, which I don't want to spoil too much. And of course, there's a cop who has a hunch that there was something up with that guy, and he's coming back, but he can't get back because he keeps getting distracted by going to the nudie bar to ask a girl some questions. But he's going to wait till her set's done, so she strips completely naked. Yep, that's what we're going to do. That kind of stuff, you guys know? But it's fun. It's silly. It's highly enjoyable. It's so 13, 14-year-old kid HBO jerk-off material that kids would stay up on late watching Showtime or something and just be like, wait for the Sorority House Massacre 2 to come on. It's fun. It's lighthearted, even though it is a slasher movie and it's full of nudity. And the ending's ridiculous. It makes me laugh. The guy who plays the neighbor, they credit him as himself, which is clearly not the case. So it's just a borderline parody, but not exactly. And it's just, maybe it is back then, but today, by today's standards, it's not. But very fun, very entertaining. We're checking out if you can get it. I think that Scream Factory is going to release this one on Blu-ray eventually, with the third one in the series, which I believe is called Hard to Die.
A house abandoned
We're gonna turn this into the best sorority house in school.
that holds a secret,
A Ouija board. Let's shake up the spirit world.
an evil that has resided for centuries and is about to be awakened.
Yes. And my dad said that nut was somehow in league with the devil.
Okay, the next one is a Patreon pick from Brandon Salkill, and he picked I don't have a copy, I watched it on Vudu, streaming in HD. I watched River Wild from 1994, directed by the guy who did LA Confidential. I saw this movie when it came out with my family. We had it rented or taped or something like that. We checked it out together. I remember watching it. I remembered a lot about this movie for not seeing it since 1994. But we have a family led by Meryl Streep. She's kind of a great... what do you call her? She likes to go on canoe rides. She's like one of the best paddlers of it. Basically takes people through these. She used to be a guide and takes people through this whitewater rafting kind of deal. She wants to take her whole family on the trip. The husband obviously doesn't want to go. He has some turmoil with the family. They're having a shaky relationship, but he ends up going with their son for his birthday and their family dog. The son is played by the kid from Jurassic Park series. I believe he's in the first one. Yeah, he's in Jurassic Park and some other things like Star Kid. So that's the setup of the movie. Right away, they kind of run into these other people that are going to be on the river. One played by Kevin Bacon, and one Wade, and one played by John C. Reilly. Yeah. Right away, you know they're up to no good. This movie sets up tons and tons of things that happen later on, but they're always so obvious. Like, here's your underwater camera, or... yeah, those rafters. That trail's really bad. Lots of people die on that one, and it's just like, we're gonna go there, aren't we? And it's cheesy in its setups, but it always sets them up. It doesn't have anything coming out of left field, completely ridiculous and whatnot. But Kevin Bacon plays a sleazeball. And I don't know if he's doing such a good job that I can't stand watching him, or he's doing such a over-the-top job he becomes like a cartoon character in a non-cartoon movie. But regardless, his character makes me want to punch him so hard. And usually I really like Kevin Bacon in films like Death Sentence or Super or Tremors. I like Kevin Bacon, even Friday the 13th. But in this movie, I think that's his intent. He's such a sleazeball, such an asshole. John C. Reilly really steals the show, and it's funny because you got Meryl Streep in here. She's considered one of the best actresses ever, and she's solid. She does a good job. She has her moments, but it's funny, like you go back and you see John C. Reilly start off in his serious career, like he's in stuff like Hoffa and Casualties at War and River Wild, and he's so good. And then he becomes a comedic actor, and he's also good. So it's just funny, but John C. Reilly really steals the show in this one. He plays a buffoon, and as I've heard people say, it's very hard to play stupid right. You got to be very smart to play stupid, and John C. Reilly plays stupid perfectly. Of course, the family ends up getting kidnapped, and they want these guys end up being involved with the crime, and they want to be taken through this very, very dangerous whitewater rafting area that is completely banned. It's completely off. You can't go there anymore, and there's a good chance they're not going to make it. But they need to get there to get their escape route. That's the setup of the movie. It's 2 hours long, which I think is a little too long for this movie, to be honest. The actual scenes on the water rafting are great, especially when they get to the danger zones. I'll call them danger zones. Pretty intense, pretty good stuff. Shot well, shot entertainingly. It feels pretty suspenseful when they're doing that kind of stuff. And Jeremy was watching this with me. He's like, what is this, Straw Dogs meets Deliverance? And I just started laughing. I was like, it's less Straw Dogs, but it's very Deliverance. Very, very Deliverance. It's heavily inspired by Deliverance. I think it's an enjoyable movie. I think for the most part it's well acted, although some of the performances seem like a little over the top. The husband in the movie actually is very much a Dustin Hoffman character from Straw Dogs. You don't particularly like him, but in this one I think he redeems himself enough, and I ended up liking the husband more than a lot of the other characters in the movie. The little kid does some solid acting, and it's the 90s, so of course there's a dog. And it's a fairly happy ending compared to what could have happened. Shot in a beautiful location, shot fairly well, and it's well worth your time. You know, those 90s thrillers like Breakdown. Breakdown I think is better, but they have some good stuff. 90s thrillers I think were some of the strongest thrillers of their time. But River Wild, worth checking out. It brought back some memories. Still want to punch Kevin Bacon in the face in the movie, but he gets punched a couple of times, so that helps. But well worth checking out. And if you guys haven't seen it, it's well worth revisiting. I haven't heard people talk about this movie in years. So thanks for the Patreon pick, Brandon. It was nice revisiting, kind of reliving some memories. I remember actually watching this with my parents and my brother. So that's kind of strange. It's so long ago.
People don't do the gauntlet anymore.
Have you ever done it?
Oh yeah, listen, I ran the gauntlet once. When I was 18 and completely insane. But I was with 2 other guides, experienced guides, and we were just lucky. there were 2 other people that summer who did not get so lucky. One guy got killed, and the other is paralyzed for life. But don't worry, we're gonna hit some 3s and 4 pluses. You're gonna scream your guts out. You'll love it. We are gonna risk death a number of times on this trip.
Okay, guys, here comes the VHS Voyage, and I had to check. Yeah, this one's from Paramount, but I think it had to be a TV movie. It's Wheels of Terror. That's right. This movie here is directed by the guy who did Young Guns, which is one of my, I don't want to say guilty pleasure. I love Young Guns, but directed Young Guns. And you can tell just by the soundtrack has like a kind of a Western twang to it, I guess I'll say. But we follow the story of mother and daughter who newly transferred to this kind of small town. I believe it's Coppertown or Copperville, something like that. And she becomes a bus driver, and she's supposed to drive the bus in summer school. But what happens is there's this weird, mysterious kind of car driving around. And I was thinking, oh, is this just going to be kind of an evil car running down kids, running down people? And the movie gets darker than that, gets creepier than that. And I did not expect it because you never see who's in the car. It appears that the car is picking up little girls and raping and molesting them. And the girls come out catatonic. And the car seems to be supernatural to some aspect. And it gets even darker than that, involving murder. And I literally was like, I know why this is rated R now. And I was surprised. It literally is rated R, and I could have swore this was a TV movie. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it played on HBO. But regardless, it got way darker than expected. The movie basically, it tries that trick too where nobody believes her at first. They believe her, but nobody else ever sees the car, which is kind of nonsensical. But regardless, the last act of this movie, the last 30 minutes are her trying to rescue her child from the car. Driving in a bus, high-speed chases, and like kind of dusty, hilly, mountainous roads, and like I believe like California, Arizona area. I can't think where it is. It's got to be California because they moved from California somewhere. So some kind of a more desolate, isolated location in California. Driving through these kind of barren place and all sorts of stunts ensue. So it's a bus with 2 little kids screaming and crying in the back. Stop the bus! I want to get out! Versus this evil car. That's the movie. There's a couple powerful moments. There's a moment by helicopter where you hear the dispatcher talking, like we got identification of a body. That stuff's pretty powerful. The acting by the lead's pretty good. She, does her emotions, and it wouldn't be easy because the movie is kind of repetitive, to be honest. And it's not horrible, though. It works well. It's completely satisfactory, and it's something that you would definitely want to catch on TV and watch the whole thing and be like, yeah, that was pretty decent. It was one a little darker than I expected. It was a little bit more action-packed than I expected, and I would give it a decent recommendation. It's pretty cool if you can find it. I had not heard much about it. This looks like something that Kino would release, and people would check it out and be like, yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. So I know that they probably don't. Maybe Olive could release it because they do a lot of the Paramount stuff, but it definitely could be rediscovered, and I think some people would find enjoyment out of it. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm not as familiar with a lot of the killer car movies as I'd like to be. Christine's one of my all-time favorites, so maybe I'll do a killer car month or a killer vehicle month or something like that. Got a bunch of ones I could do in there. But regardless, Wheels of Terror is pretty cool stuff.
Wheels of Terror.
I'm not having just some wacko nightmare here. Come on, answer the phone! It's real! Just hang on.
terror. Hope you enjoy the ride.
Okay, the pick a movie. We got Violent Cop. I watched on Shudder from 1989, directed by Takashi Kitano, who is a famous Japanese actor, and he's been called, I guess, the Japanese Clint Eastwood, and he pretty much is. He's like this tough guy, directs his own movies. For horror fans, they'll know him as the teacher from Battle Royale. He's great in that movie. He directs this movie, Violent Cop, and he stars in it. It's made in 1989. This is a crime movie. He's a police officer. I'm really impressed by his range of acting. When you watch something like Zatoichi, he plays him, and you watch Battle Royale, then you watch Violent Cop. His range is completely good, and he does a lot of facial expressions, subtle facial expressions that do a lot of acting in them. And I'm not saying he's underacting at all. I'm saying he is acting amazingly through very little, which is not easy to do. But regardless, we follow this story of a cop who's not really on the level. He's kind of crooked, but more so just, he's very crooked in his violent approach to get things done. And it seems that his department kind of understands that, but they just don't want him to go too far. He has a mentally handicapped sister who's just kind of... there's something obviously wrong with her. She was in a state hospital, and you start to think that maybe he might have some mental problems as well. But he has a best friend who works on the force, and he finds out, he gets involved with trying to take down these drug operation and finds out that his best friend may be involved. Something happens to his friend, and he kind of goes AWOL. And he decides to go after this crime syndicate. The lead crime guy is in a bunch of stuff I've seen him in. He's in 13 Assassins, and I think he's in Zatoichi too. So that's cool. He's a pretty good actor. And then he has this weird henchman who's just this complete sadist. He loves killing. And the movie kind of has this cat and mouse. I don't even want to say that because they're going at each other full force. Between the assassin and Kitano. And they start to, do some horrible things to each other. And the movie escalates into a crazy, crazy violent end, which was very violent and very intense and ended in a bleak kind of way that a lot of 70s classic American movies would have. So there's some good police chases in here on a car chase, and they're not exactly what you would expect. There's some good fight scenes, and the way Kitano slaps people. He literally is such a physical actor. You see the red marks on a person's face. It's just intense. I'll have to buy this one because I really loved it. And the ending, man, the ending is so great. Just somebody who does not care. And he plays I don't care so well. And the ending, what happens and what he does is just so perfect for this movie. It's just so perfect. And when he gets the hitman one time by himself and he's torturing him, and the cops come in and he says, "Did you kill this person?" And he says, "No, they killed themselves." And he says, "Then you kill yourself." Just like that. And it's just a great performance, a great crime movie. I don't want to spoil too much. With a knockout ending that's well worth checking out. If you got Shudder, you should check it out. I'll have to check his other movies out too. Like I said, I'm impressed by his range. Very impressed by it, and very impressed by his films he's directed. So yeah, Violent Cop, great stuff.
たけしさん、凶器って何ですか？
警察官は聖職者であることを各自念頭に置いて、その職務に対し誇りを持って励んでもらいたいということです。
立場を抜きにすれば嫌いじゃないけどね。
いざという時、あれを始末する人間はいるのか。
奴は殺しが好きだ。今度はお前の番だよ。順番からやてめえの番だからよ。
あいつを用意したらいずれあんたは破滅しますよ。
この管内の土地柄もよく知ってるつもりだ。現場にどんな刑事が必要かも分かっているつもりだ。
Okay, guys, we're going to do the pick a movie. I can't remember who won last time. Oh, did I just do last time? I don't know. Usually I'm a week ahead. I can't keep track right now. It was 80s Film Fan. I don't think he's given me one yet, but let's see who we got here. I got one in my hand. Who is it? John Bludgeoned. Let me show you guys that. John Bludgeoned. So let me know what you want me to check out. I guess we're going to hop into the questions right now. Let's see what we got. Questions. Nick Mua, if you could have any superpower, what would you pick? That's a good one. I've thought about this. And it's probably very human remote control. I want to be able to pause, freeze certain situations, rewind certain people, fast forward certain people, you know, but always remember it. So basically, time control, if that makes sense, because I think that would be intense. Why are superheroes so popular in the USA? I have no idea why. I don't know. I can't like say if they're popular anywhere else, but they've always been popular here. I have no idea. Well, actually, they go in streaks. When I was a kid, in the 90s, I don't feel like they were as strongly as popular. I think they kind of were dying out when I was in there and whatnot, and then they became more popular later on again. I'm not sure, though. Are novelists good or bad screenwriters? Why? I think Stephen King works as both as a screenwriter and author. I'm not 100% sure on that. That's a good question. I can't really determine. I'm not really an author. And I know Stephen King wrote some of his stuff, and that stuff turned out fine. Maximum Overdrive, anyone? I love Maximum Overdrive. But Sleepwalkers, I like it. I don't know how good the script is. It's been 20 years since I've watched it. I'm not sure if they'd make good or bad now. I think it all depends on the writer, because there's so many different writing styles. I think that if your writing style is easier to translate to film, you might do better, but maybe you do worse because you would just, I don't know. It all depends on the writer. It's such a circumstantial question. Peter McCain, ever seen Cat Sick Blues? Yes, I have. That movie's insane. I don't know whether I like it or not. There's some moments I love the scene when she starts to have like the weird I don't want to spoil it, but she like gets pregnant, I think, and that stuff's great. It's just weird and gross and all over the place. Answers. The question I asked last time, who's your favorite actor-director combination? Jonathan Wilhelm. Come on, man. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, of course. That's a great one. Maeve TN7, who I believe is Chris Rivers. Best director-actor combination is a tough one, but I'll go with Kazan and Marlon Brando. Not a ton of films together, but very impactful ones. A Streetcar Named Desire, Viva Zapata, and On the Waterfront. Wow. Peekaboo, answer to the question of the week. Toshihiro and Akira, the family name is the first in Asia, remember that. A specific note, my wife did see/meet the daughter of Toshihiro. And that's, I believe, the same... the coolest actor he picked last time, so that's cool. The M. Brown 80, favorite actor and director duo, in memory of, I believe he means Dick Miller here, but he put Dick Smith, which is an easy thing to do. Dick Miller, I'd say him and Joe Dante. And bonus, Sid Haig and Jack Hill, also a good one. Front Desk Matt, maybe due to current events, but actor-director combo, Joe Dante and Dick Miller, hands down. He's a big Joe Dante fan, I knew that. Nick Mua, actor-director top team. Del Toro and Ron Perlman always make magic together. Hellboy 1 and 2 are masterful. Such a shame they weren't allowed to conclude the trilogy. Josh Wheaton and Amy Ackler deliver brilliant work on a frequent basis, too. Check out The Cabin in the Woods or Much Ado About Nothing. Peter Englund, my favorite actor-director combination, top 5, of course. Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro. Quentin Tarantino and Samuel Jackson, John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, Paul Thomas Anderson, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Kurosawa, and Mifune again. So yeah, that's some great stuff here. We have James Grimmer. I feel that both Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, as well as John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, are both great pairings. They both put out quality movies together, which can be said about Stuart Gordon and Jeffrey Combs as well. Directors and actors who get along is evident due to working on multiple movies together, and it shows how much they care. That mindset of collaboration also helps to make a movie memorable, no matter what genre it is. That is true. I always love seeing like Sam Peckinpah Cruz, like that's a Peckinpah regular. LQ Jones is popping up in here, so I love that. You know, seeing the Peckinpah regulars. So that's who I'd probably pick. Peckinpah and any of his boys. Even though they only work in a couple movies usually because they can't stand them for too long. But Tempo Tops, top 2 great director-actor duos, Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski, and Greg Anarchy and James Duvall. That's a good one too. Brad Hominen, Herzog and Kinski. Hudson, director-actor, John Carpenter, and Kurt Russell. So we got a lot of the same ones here. The new question of the week is your favorite shootout of all time. Is it Wild Bunch? Is it True Romance? Anything like that? Is it a John Woo movie? You know, The Killer, Hard Boiled? What's your favorite shoot at all time? Young Guns, Tombstone? Shoot it out. Let me know. And I guess we are going to hop into the update. Okay, guys, let's hop into this update. This first one's kind of a doozy. So it is the 10-film collection, I Heart Independent Film. And, yep, let's see what's in here. We got Bernie, which I haven't seen. Rampart, which has Woody Harrelson. The Proposition, which I have seen, and it's been a while. Australian Western. Bad Lieutenant, The Port Call of New Orleans, which has Nicolas Cage in it. Transsiberian. Paris, I'm not going to pronounce the French word there because I'm an idiot. Joan Rivers, A Piece of Work. Trust, Innkeepers, which I already have. And What Masie Knew. So I basically got this for The Proposition, Bad Lieutenant, and The Paris because I heard it's a pretty interesting movie. But this is a nice set. For $10 is what I paid for it. $10 for 10 Blu-rays. Can't beat that, to be honest. Very good deal. Some good classics in here. So, yep. Let's hop into this one. Caravan to, not going to bother. It's a word, I guarantee, did you ever have those places that you know what they are right when you hear them pronounced out loud, but right when you see it spelled, you're just like, I'm a moron. That's it. So I'm not going to bother. But, yeah, this one I'd heard not many good things about, but there are 30,000 gypsies. Yeah, that place I can't say because I'm an idiot. But regardless, it was dirt cheap. It was Scorpion. Yeah, so I picked it up. Looked interesting. Looked like an adventure movie. Well worth the price. Where the Boys Are, 84. I believe this is a remake. Not seen this. Good, cheap price. It is a Scorpion releasing, so couldn't pass it up. We got I Remember You from IFC and Scream Factory. Heard good things from 22 Shots and Moods. I think Moods like this one. So for the price, again, got a good price on it. I believe it's Scandinavian. So yeah. We have a couple DVDs here. We have the Don Groenquist double feature, Murder Run and Unhinged. Unhinged is a video nasty. I've seen it. It's not particularly great. But again, this is a good price, and I was interested in Murder Run. But yep. And last, but definitely least, not because of the quality of the movie, just because I was in this Asian market, and yeah, this was $1. I thought it was Internal Affairs 2 from Video Universe. Yeah, pretty funny to me. So I grabbed it. That's the only decent movie they had there. But back to the video, guys. Okay, guys. Hope you enjoyed the update. I want to let you guys know that the Patreon prizes will be, there's going to be 2 prizes. I'll draw probably next week. I'm not going to dig out the editions. I ordered some new copies for you guys, but I have them myself. First prize will be, they'll probably pop up right over there. It'll be a Kino Lorber Blu-ray of The Pit. And I believe it's a Canadian Blu-ray of Reflecting Skin. So both great movies, both cool movies. That's first prize. So and second prize will be the Kino Lorber edition of Fistful of Dollars. So yeah, just if any of you guys are Patreon supporters, you're automatically entered into the contest. So I'll draw your guys' name next week. But that's all I have for you guys. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and you guys have a good one.